Okay, if everything went according to plan, I feel like I start the show like that every single time. If everything went according to plan, if everything aligned, we should
One
be
day,
live.
one.
Well, today it didn't. When does the show normally start? Are we 30 minutes late?
More. We're like 45 minutes late.
Oh, good
Thank you,
morning.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Drexen.
Jeez.
Going-
Jeez, I gotta hold you guys accountable. What can I say?
Going MIA, falling asleep. Okay, hi, I'm Frostgrid. I'm gonna be your host. Our panelists are gonna be Kelsey Moser, working now for the score. I guess we can say that. We got Razzleplasm down there working for Esportspedia, and then we have Drexen working for Esports Heaven, editor-in-chief. I always like saying editor-in-chief. I don't even really like the Esports Heaven part, but the editor-in-chief
Either.
part
Wow.
is pretty
Uh-oh,
shit.
I screwed myself. I'm just kidding.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I'm
Fleet
okay.
versus Energy Pacemaker.
That wasn't the first set. The first set was EDG versus M3.
Well, we're not going through every single set.
Yeah, we're not gonna go through every single set.
M3
So
versus
we're
EDG
talking
was
about
basically
WE versus EP.
okay. So M3 versus EDG. Basically, what happens is Looper plays Kennen and sucks, and then EDG.
Is that when he
wins.
tries to like flash on top of everyone every
Yes.
single time and they
Yeah,
all
okay.
just
So
walk out?
M3 did Dragon without him successfully, and then he comes down mid like, "I'm coming to help Dragon, boys," and then he just dies. Like he just suicides in and ults 5 people and just dies, and that was basically that set.
Mm.
Okay, this is the great thing about M3 though, since we're like sort of talking about them, is like
Can we just have a topic called shitty Koreans?
not
Oh,
only
wow.
not only is Looper not living up to people's expectations, but he's actually like the
Can we
polar
not
opposite of
use
his like of his specialty point. Like it's not just that he's like not good at teleports, he's like really bad at teleports and like team assisting and stuff. So that just goes to show that like almost all of that was communication on his prior team. Ugh, man, Looper is disappointing.
Almost like Vada maybe called some of those teleports or something.
Oh yeah, and Clearlove played Nunu in that set, and then we learned why Clearlove's good at Nunu again.
I
and
feel like-
it was nice.
One of the only Koreans, like the superstar Koreans, actually showing up and doing his job is Dandy.
Yep.
Like, I
Yeah.
feel like Dandy is being solid. Like, he looks exactly like Dandy. It's awesome. Rookie and Cacao are starting to ramp a little bit, but, like, everyone else, even Mata, Dade, Looper,
I feel like-
Spirit...
Like
Okay, I'm
Spirit.
gonna give Mata like. Oh, you go first. You go first.
This is
No, I'm just saying I don't think Spirit really has a choice though.
EDG's
He doesn't.
Koreans are at least Deft for EDG's
Deft is
Koreans
doing good.
are working really hard, I think.
I'm gonna give Mata like a pass because he's shown some really
and
good
then
plays.
Spirit is
What?
working
We're gonna
really
give
hard.
Mata a pass?
Yeah. I mean, like he's shown some pretty good plays, and then he's had to deal with some like really bad positioning on his teammates' part. So,
We have this...
like,
Well, you had to deal with that before
Yeah,
too,
you
though.
can- You can tell he just tilts though. He's just like, I'm overcommitting on this ward. I'm killing this ward now.
okay.
My concern is that even though he's pretty good, Mata still does not look like the best support in China,
No, PYL
and
does.
that should be the case. Yes, PYL is
And
by far the-
Mako.
like
I would rather go for Ella. By the way, Ella is.
Mako's
Ella is doing really good
Ella's
too,
really
actually.
good.
To be honest,
I said
man, all these like no-name supports from Korea are just like, oh, it's
Zero,
Ella looks
Ella.
really good.
beasting, beasting it up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's actually... Okay, structure. Here we go. I got this.
Korea, who just like
episode of all
comes to
time.
China.
Best
apologize in
episode.
advance.
I just spoke up. Invictus Gaming. Actually, I'm trying to think about like kind of organizing thoughts into like the key components of what happened this week, and I think the most important things that happened were Invictus Gaming is ramping up, Vici Gaming, LGD falling down or whatever the hell is happening over there, and OMG shitting the bed. Yeah, I think that's like Vici, IG, OMG, LGD. Yeah? Everyone in agreement? Anything else that we want to structure before we go into this?
Nope, sounds good to me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Invictus Gaming. Just to give some context,
Kalista happened.
we'll talk about Kalista in LGD shitting the bed. I think those are one and the same. No?
And King.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, Invictus Gaming is
King.
where we're going to start, because Raz and I are on the show, and we actually like Invictus Gaming.
Yep.
So
okay.
the thing about IG is that IG historically has been a team that just does not care. It just typical Chinese aggression, probably to a fault. They see a fight, they take a fight. There's no reason for the fight. There's no reason to be there. And when they got their Korean acquisitions in Rookie, Kakao, or Save, nothing really changed. It was still the IG of old. In fact, it was even worse because they weren't even finding 1-1s. They were just getting 2-0'd or 2-0'ing. And it was kind of like we beat the bottom teams, and then suddenly we got into like this mid-tier team, and they just couldn't win. It was really bizarre. But then they decided to play a composition where Rookie played Cassiopeia. I'm trying to think of what other champions. It was like a late game scaling comp. I think Kid was on Severe. And then we had Rookie on Cassiopeia. And whereas before they were putting Rookie and Satai kind of historically on like these assassin champions like Zed and Fizz and things like that, and they would just go like nuts in that mid lane, it was almost a really controlled game from then, where they took the time to ramp. Kakao got to wander around a little bit more, and we finally saw like success from Invictus Gaming, and they finally looked pretty scary. So why don't we start there?
They also played Azir, which I guess he's played before. It's a breath of fresh air, like that there's structure on that team now. That's really nice.
It was like they started running Nasher's Tooth and attack speed on Azir. It was kind of cool. Also, I'm really starting to like these Azir Nunu comps. Like the two synergize so well in case as like a fallback for the AD carry, and also there's just so much zone control in that team, and I love it. And that was actually something that I was really impressed with. Yeah, Kakao was zoning really well in his team fights when playing Nunu, but I also have to give it to Kid. Like, we always talk about like the new Koreans and stuff on IG, but like Kid is just like, for the last 2 seasons, honestly, he's been really, really good. And like, I don't know, I feel like his team's held him back a little bit, and I feel like he's honestly the most underrated AD carry right now.
Okay. No, this is a good one. This is a good topic. I'm
His
glad that you brought this up.
His Ezreal is crazy.
No. Okay, everyone is talking about Crystal. Like, that is just what's happening right now. Crystal,
please God, no.
Crystal is being talked about, and people they always keep asking me, like, about Crystal, and they don't seem to understand how much I actually dislike that guy. So, we're going to make a list, and we're gonna start with Jackson. Jackson's like, I fucking hate lists.
Yeah. Pretty much.
No, not like a list of like top 80 carries down, but I mean like a list of measurable qualities that we look for in 80 carries. Like, why is Crystal bad to us, but why is Kid okay? Like, this is what I want. I want a list exactly. I want a list of qualities on why we consider Kid the better 80 carry.
I think all of them intervene a little bit, but like kind of combine to like make for. Like the skills complement each other, I should say. But obviously, like, last hitting, positioning, how many autos you get in for, like, each team fight, which is something I always count when I watch team fights. Then there's also just... I think a lot of it is also self-sufficiency. Like, not needing a ridiculous amount of peel for yourself. I think better 80 carries. That's partially why I rate Name so high, is he never really had a team that was, like, super, oh my god, don't let them get to him kind of deal.
So positioning.
I think that's about it. Yeah. Oh yeah, and also very, just how do I put this? Like summoner usage. Like tracking summoner usage is really important.
Okay. So in positioning,
so like not blowing flash too early, not like panic healing and stuff like that.
I would say champion pool is also very necessary.
Yeah. And I think the thing with Kid is, like, you can tell his summoners are good just because his cooldown usage generally is good. And that's why he's, like, really good at those Triforce 80 carries, so...
Well, he plays, like you said, Ezreal, caster 80 carry, so actually how Kid... If you ever watch Kid play Ezreal, I always love doing this, how he uses E on his Ezreal is almost different than pretty much any other Ezreal. Like, a lot of, not even just Western 80 carries, but some other Chinese 80 carries will always, like, when you watch it, you, like, feel like, oh, he's gonna E forward now, and he's gonna, you know, double tap them. Kid never does it. He never uses E. He almost actually uses kind of an attack-based Ezreal. And he doesn't, like, build him attack base, but he just gets more autos on that champion than a lot of other Ezreals. And I think, like, his patience with his E cooldown, like, when I watch him, is why I always really liked Kid and Kitties.
What I also found interesting is that, I think...
Kid.
Okay.
Focus. I'm like ADHD right now. I can't.
Crystal is trying to stop this discussion from happening. By
He
the way.
is. Okay, here's my
Yeah.
thing with Crystal.
That focus didn't last very long.
I know, right? Here's my thing with Crystal. Crystal has a champion pool of Draven. Apparently he can now play Kalista, which I actually thought his Kalista was fairly good. Like, I'll put, like, respect where it's due. Out of all of the Kalistas that we've seen so far, yes, Kelsey's back. Damn
Literally
it,
a picture of salt.
lost my train of thought.
There you go.
Kalista. I mean, Draven.
No.
Crystal's Kalista.
Crystal's Kalista and his Draven. Okay, so that's what
What is
he...
Triss, though?
No.
Well, then again, never mind. Maybe not.
No.
Because I remember the only games he did well was when he had like 3 supportive champions around him. So,
Like, here's the very limited champion pool. His positioning is pretty subpar. Like, frankly, not even in, like, a team fight. Like, a team fight, sometimes Crystal can just go off. It's like, yes, that guy is actually doing really well. He's doing pretty good. That's what we expect from an AD carry in China on a top-ranked team. But his positioning on the map, just, like, in general, just farming creeps or walk into this direction or I need to be here, is so piss poor. Like... He always gets caught for random reasons. He is never really where Snake needs him to be 100% of the time as far as like macro rotations. His champion pool is limited. He's so hit or... It's almost like Vasily. Like if I were to take the most overrated 80 carries in China...
Yeah.
Like, which is what I wanted to say between the Vici Gaming game and the Snake game. I was like, let's find out who's actually less overrated. Spoiler alert, it was Crystal.
I mean, the thing about Vasily and Crystal, like, you pointed a lot of stuff out, but I think it's just their peel-reliant 80 carries is their biggest issue. It's the biggest issue that I have with them, I personally, and then, of course, I made the great UZI Name debate.
I don't know why you even brought their names into it.
Just because, like, the big stereotype we always think of is that UZI is the peel-reliant 80 carry. Name is, like, less so.
Yep, the self-sufficient one.
Yeah. I always think of Wei Xiao as, like, the pinnacle of self-sufficient 80 carries, but obviously we're not even getting close to Wei Xiao.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a disservice to Name and Uzi to even bring them up in this discussion because it somehow translates that like Crystal is even near that level and he's not. To me, he's like STYZ. Like STYZ and Crystal are kind of like right here. And I feel like STYZ looks at Crystal and he's like, I could do that. I could be that 80 carry for them.
I think it's fair. I think STYZ and Crystal are similar level.
I'd agree.
I think STYZ obviously is missing a team. So that's going to be the big difference. But Raz and I, like, and you guys probably watched some Snake games in LSPL, remember seeing Crystal without Ella and Beast and, like, the cohesion that they provided. Like, and not to say that Colin is a bad support. Colin still did a really good job of propping up Crystal really hard, but I think just without the whole Snake thing, without Snake being, like, a very strong unit, we saw the struggles that Crystal had, and a lot of his flaws were magnified then. And I think OMG brought out a lot of those flaws in their set against them. And I think that when he played Kog'Maw in the Vici Gaming games this week, the flaws were a lot more obvious again too. Like there was like everyone was saying, "Oh, why are you picking Kog'Maw? It's obviously the Kog'Maw pick's fault." Def played Kog'Maw today. Def's Kog'Maw was great.
To be fair, though, did Deft run Kog'Maw with Olaf? And
yeah, I know. That composition was awful, but everyone just mentioned and we can talk about awful comps later when we talk about OMG, but everyone just mentioned the Kog'Maw, right? They just fixated on the Kog'Maw.
It was that the Kog'Maw didn't have any peel.
Yeah. But no, it wasn't that the Kog'Maw didn't have any peel. They're like, oh, Kog'Maw is so bad in this meta.
He had Janna Morgana, but there was never really an instance where...
No, I'm saying the reason why people were talking about Kog'Maw wasn't in the context of no peel. It was in the context of Kog'Maw as a bad champion.
I know, but I'm trying to frame it for Crystal specifically.
I know. I understand that.
if Crystal doesn't have someone holding his dick, he doesn't do very well. If he's not on one of two champions, he doesn't do very well. So you can't claim to be this godlike AD carry and put him in the same context of Uzi and Name if he's so limited like that. Like, otherwise we need to respect Vici, otherwise we need to respect STYZ. And frankly, the reason why I have an issue respecting Vici and Crystal is because we're in a region with Deft, Imp, Name, and Uzi. The bar of elite AD carries is just that much higher. If you moved Crystal over into a region with weaker AD carries that will go unnamed, yeah, he'd probably be amazing. But in this region, with these top laners, with these junglers diving that back line, like, it's not even just the fact that he's competing against Uzi, it's the fact that he's got going and he doesn't have Flandre, but, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's people like Flandre in that league, there's people like going, like Sky when he decides to play Rumble.
Yeah, okay, here's my issue with Crystal. And I think Crystal, yeah, he's gotten better in the sense when it comes to his champion pool, because in the LSPL he's had a horrible champion pool, or at least a very limited champion pool.
Still
and I understand.
Draven.
But, like, he didn't play Draven back then. He just had, like, a very Kog'Maw, very Tristana-esque style champion pool. And it made up for maybe... Because Cullen was not a bad support. Cullen was a good support, but he needed... If he was going to play that champion, he needed to, especially Tristana later on, he needed to cover up some of his flaws. And the reason why Kog'Maw covered up his flaws, which is really funny and kind of, like, counterintuitive, was because if he played any other champion, he would lose that really, like, effectiveness in the game, I would say, because what Kog'Maw brings is if the rest of his team comes and protects him, or even if he was just able to stay in the fight for a little while later on in the game, he would output an amazing amount of damage to the point in which it's like, wow, how do we even touch that Kog'Maw? How do we get to that Kog'Maw? Like, how do we get to that backline? In the early game, it was not that big of a deal because, of course, Snake ran a very early game, like, big strength on Flandre.
Big strength on early
Big
game
strength, that's...
Flandre.
Big
God, that
strength
made
on
me-
Flandre.
Big
Oh,
strength.
God.
Is this a Chinese
Big.
translation?
Oh, God.
Big man Flandre on campus.
Sorry.
Focus, I'm guessing.
Sorry. But yeah, so, like, the early game strength and focus was on... See, that was the word I was going for.
Yeah.
It was on Flandre.
Today's word of the
And-
day is focus.
Jeez. But yeah, that was... So, I'm trying to get back to my thought. But yeah, Crystal kind of had to rely on that. But now we've seen him really look for... Like, he's buffed up his champion pool. And I think that was based on his... I think he's noticed that Ella is I wouldn't say yeah, he is a better support. Like, I can't even tell. He's a better support in that, like, he will peel for him, and he will do it well regardless of what champion he plays. Like, we've seen it definitely in this last set against Vici, in which, by the way, his picks were horrible for each, like, in the picks and bans, like, as good as his champion pool is now. Like, they were not decent picks. The Kog'Maw was, like, picking Kog'Maw in most sets are fine. Picking Kog'Maw in that specific set with those champions, you will die.
That was so
You will
bad.
die often. I remember I was trying to do a Kog'Maw death count on my Twitter because that was going to happen. Like, not only is he he's not... Crystal may
clarify,
not be a
it's-
death style... Yeah, go on.
And to clarify, it's not just him. It's not just his team that was bad because it was actually okay. At like Janna and Azir and like some Morgana, but the Vici Gaming
top.
team the Vici Gaming team that he picked it into was
Zed-
really
No,
bad.
it wasn't Zed. It was Lysandra.
Vi,
Oh god, Lysandra Vi.
It was probably the worst situation.
Annie.
Mhm.
They had
But-
3 forms of hard engage, and then everyone on their team was pretty much a go-in champion, like not a peel
We do
champion.
have to talk
so.
about the fact that if you didn't see that game, because obviously if you haven't watched that game and we tell you like, oh, Vici Gaming won, of course they won, it was probably just a smash. That game was not a smash.
That's the thing, though. It was a smash until the very end because Vasily just kept like overzealously going in, and that would end the team fight for them. Like
And so every
Vasily
single time...
had so much gold. He had like 17 kills,
They were
and
like 10k up for a majority of that game. Like when 10k mattered, Vici Gaming was 10k gold up, but they were like Kelsey said, like they couldn't in this game, and literally just a picture of this game, I'll never forget this. I want to make a gif of it. When they were on the Nexus towers and Vasily's playing Kalista, and so he's just melting through them, and he decides to walk around the Nexus tower to try to get on the back side of the Nexus to kill Crystal. Immediately he gets exhausted, Crystal turns to him and two-shots him.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
Snake almost takes it all the way back.
Like that was
Except
so
Dandy's epic 1v3. Like
Yeah,
I
That game was one of those games that I think was pretty poor in retrospect, but was really, really fun to watch.
It was so fun. It was like one of the hypest games, of course, until you saw the King game. That was like pretty hype.
And the other
But like,
thing...
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no worries. I was just about to say that like this set showed how bad. Like you can go on to say like, yeah, the picks and bans for Snake was bad. It was poor. Like Vici should have won that. It was stomp, except it wasn't, because it came down to this, like how poor Vasily and Vici Gaming as a whole played. Like, and it goes on to the next game that we're going to talk about, the game in which he picked up Kalista. But like, Jesus, like I don't know if it's the coordination of that team is bad or just the shot calling, because you like in no way should that ever happen. You should ever be in that situation.
It's weird. It's like, I don't know if this is directly a language barrier thing, but it's almost as if Dandy can only kind of be with one. We call them Dandy's ducklings because they kind of follow Dandy around. Like Hatong and Carrie will just like find Dandy like in the middle game, and they'll just like, they won't leave his side. And there was actually this really beautiful composition where Dandy and Hatong played Rengar and Zed. And it was just like gorgeous flanking every single time. Like you would see Vici set up, and then you would see Hatong and Dandy kind of rush from the sides and like hit the back line at the same time. I was like, yep, there's this little duck. And then like Mata's like a goose in this scenario, just kind of like hanging out. But
He's kind of angry and honking at
it's
people.
like, yeah, he can only do it with one at a time. Like he either takes Hatong under his wing and he's like, don't worry, buddy, we're gonna go and we're gonna flank them beautifully. Or he grabs Carrie and he's like, come on, Carrie, let's go play Rumble over here. But he can never get Hatong, Carrie, Mata, and Vasily all together with him. There's just too many. They go too many different directions. Like that's the best way that I can explain it. Like Hatong will either go in way too early, like he'll get a nice Lissandra ult or something like that, but no one will be there to follow it up, or Carrie will be on like the complete opposite side of a fight that they need him on, or Vasily's suiciding into Nexus towers, or Mata's just like, fuck this shit, like retired off stage.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, individually they're strong. It's just like they're so poorly coordinated in team fights. Like I feel like sometimes they just like go in without saying anything. They just kind of go in and then like they die and they're like, team? Team? What's going on? Like that's the way Vici plays though.
The difference between Vici Gaming now and Vici Gaming like even last week, I think is significant.
Oh yeah.
I think they're kind of figuring out some things, like Dandy can get his ducks in a row every once in a while. Really for me though, the linchpin of this set, we talk a lot about the 80 carries and Vici Gaming's coordination and all this stuff. We haven't really talked about Beast's champion pool and the fact that he was target banned.
Which is great. I was just going to say that's great when you consider the fact that there's already two people on that team that can only play two champions.
Yeah. Like they banned Nunu and Jarvan and he comes out with Olaf. And I was looking at some of the games he used to play in Korea, and then like he was on kind of a bad team, Big File Miracle, but he's like 2-4 all-time on Lee Sin, and one of his wins on Lee Sin is in China. He's never won like a Rengar game. I mean, it's kind of, and I haven't physically watched these Big File Miracle games, but it's just kind of like maybe he can't necessarily play the champion super well.
To be really fair, I actually kind of liked the Olaf pick into the composition that it was facing. The fact that he was facing Vi, Lissandra, and Annie, like, just put on the Queen soundtrack of Can't Stop Me Now, because that's all that was. He was like, I see you have CC, so I'll pick Olaf.
But here's the thing, I don't even think he played it that well.
He didn't play it well, but it was still kind of clever.
I mean, so you could see the idea that he has, and then in some of the other games, like his Rengar was underwhelming against OMG, and it's just, it's a little bit concerning if he really will only succeed on, really succeed on these Nunu and Jarvan picks.
Is it really? I mean, if you look at Jarvan and Nunu, those are going to be supportive style junglers. Olaf Lee Sin is going to be a carry style. Same thing with Rengar. And the fact of the matter is, and yeah, it is concerning that he has a limited champion pool of 2, but so does Chwin. And Crystal demands a supportive style jungler. So like it makes sense, and yeah, it sucks that he can only play 2 champions and you can target ban him and you can try to focus Snake down there, especially because Beast is one of the stronger members of that team, especially in his vision control and what he allows Flandre to do. But at the same time, it's like we should expect this because that's exactly what he does for Crystal. But then at the same time, like they go and they ban Nunu and they ban Xerath, and then the very next game, what do we have? We have a Nunu Xerath composition, and guess what? Snake went 1-1 in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing though. It's just it speaks to so far what we've seen from Snake being one-dimensional.
But wait, Kelsey, they're the Cloud9 of China. How dare you say that they're one-dimensional?
We see their flaws, and we're talking about their flaws, and I feel like everyone is just gonna pick apart us picking apart their flaws, but like come playoffs, I think it's really gonna matter a lot more unless they figure out something else. Which I think it'll be really cool if they figure out something else. I would like to see that. So
I'm still trying to figure out if Snake is going to be, because so far they've improved actually quite a bit from their LSPL team. So if they continue to improve, maybe they will pick up some of the slack. But like I do remember like people have been like saying that Snake has been improving, like doing really well lately, and it's just based on look at the competition. Like we always have to, this is what we always have to talk about when it comes down to giving someone like kind of like giving people compliments, I guess, or like saying, oh, look at this, look at the level that he showed compared to last week. He's gotten better. Is it that he's gotten better, or literally
has everyone else gotten
worse? Like you cannot say that, man, he was in a slump when he was facing OMG, but against that EP team, oh my god, he's shown that he's picked himself up. No, like he's at the same level. And of course that seems like common sense, but like this actually happens. This discussion actually goes through sometimes. And it's concerning. It's really concerning.
To be really fair, there are some teams though that have just suddenly decided that they wanted to play a game called League of Legends, like Invictus Gaming, even Vici Gaming. Like there has been definite improvements there, and so like these middle of the pack teams, like obviously if someone's just like slamming Masters 3 and Energy Pacemaker and World Elite, like that's nothing to write home about, but. I can see some confusion because, like, one week Invictus Gaming is like, do we want to be IG or do we want to be, like, a competent team today?
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with, like, the time where the rosters are figuring each other out, obviously. But I think that as these middle-tier teams become stronger, we're going to see a lot more competition for the top, and the teams that already, seemingly are figuring something out, so such that they have to figure out more things. And I'm excited because I feel like we're going to have like 8 teams that are good go to the playoffs.
Kelsey's really mad that no one has ever challenged OMG for all the stupid things that they've done, except for apparently GT.
GMT, woo!
Which we were just talking about, bottom tier teams.
God.
No, this is a good segue for OMG, because I feel like, yeah, people will be like, oh, they just don't like Snake, they're really mean to Snake, they put Snake last, and Snake proved them wrong. Let's talk about OMG's failures as a team. I'm trying to think of, like, how to even set this up. OMG, like, speaking of one-dimensional, like, yeah, you can say they're maybe experimenting with some of their pick spans, but, like, OMG does not look like the creative team that they once were. There's no creative team fighting. Like, for example, last night we had Jarvan. Loveling's Jarvan, historically, has been really cool to watch because of how he uses Cataclysm with, like, terrain and choke points and how they set up team fights and how OMG go about executing team fights. Like, there's almost like this, like, if you think about the Dragon Pit, you have all those little funnels and offshoots and angles that feed into the Dragon Pit. Like, the classic OMG play would be to have, like, an OMG member on each one of those funnels, and they would all collapse perfectly, which is normally, like, a really risky play, but OMG was just so good that they could just come from top, come from bottom, come from the side, and just, like, rip everyone apart and just be like, damn, that's OMG. Like, that's that amazing team fighting team. And now... No, not so much. Now they kind of just, like, smash their face from one direction, and it kind of works out just because they're better mechanically in the long run. And I think that this was very much showcased last night in their GAMT games.
I do remember people were having that, like, including me, like, we're having the discussion. It's like, are OMG going to turn into, like, is UCI going to conform to, like, to the man, like, become that, like, Name style 80 carry, like, he has to change because, like, oh, well, like, you look at Starhorn Royal Club and it's like, oh, well, the gold's been going away from him to, like, kind of, like, being distributed to the other teammates, to the other lane, so maybe that'll happen. And then you
Excuse me.
just and then you just notice that like, oh god, they're getting pulled into the UZI zone where they just like like we've been seeing more Vayne picks, which is not a bad thing. Which is never a I'm not gonna say never a bad thing. Which is
It's
not
always
like
a bad thing. Yes. Always.
It works with Jarvan. Like they
They
did
made
Vayne
Kid.
into
They
Jarvan.
made Kid pick it too.
yeah, that's
They
true.
had Kid pick it too, and that was terrifying.
It works
Ugh.
with Jarvan. It has really good synergy with Jarvan. It
Yeah.
works
Can't
on movement speed
siege.
shrines. I understand the sieging thing, but I totally understand from a team fight perspective why Vayne is okay right now.
But okay at best. Like here's the thing.
I
Like
think.
it
Yeah.
like you look
They're
at the
good
other
80
selection
carry
of 80
picks.
carries. Yeah, they're really good ones. Like put
Oh
'em
no,
on-
I'm putting my foot down on this one. I think Vayne is a solid pick right now.
Not for China.
Come at me,
Because
bro.
the only way teams are winning right now is
They're
by
taking towers.
is through towers. Like they're
Yes.
just if they like everyone is gonna screw up at some point in the game. Like it's a weird thing to say, but they're all every single roster is trying to figure stuff out. So the only team that's just gonna have like this immaculate run is Edward Gaming because I don't know. I don't want to talk about them right now. But
What?
I love Edward Gaming, but they're doing really well, so they're not as fun to talk about.
Something that I will say about OMG, like if we're talking about conforming, if it was going to be who was going to break first, UZI or OMG, and what style was going to change, like obviously their style as a team has changed, but it still doesn't feel like, they don't feel like Starhorn World Cup. They haven't conformed all of the way. I will
Yeah.
say that Loveling
Except for
is
that weird
ganking,
Morgana mid game.
Loveling is ganking UZI's lane 10 times more than any other lane. Like that has that is something that's changed.
He used to like live in top lane.
And
Yeah.
because of it, going is kind of getting screwed. Like,
Yeah, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
kind of see going. Like he doesn't. I think what Gamty did that was actually really smart. If we talk about like how much OMG screwed up, but Gamty like, I think going just isn't used to getting camped like that hard without his own jungle pressure, because they like danger was just always there. He's like, "Hi, how you doing? Have fun."
it was a 2v1 effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to going's testament, even though he got like 2v1 in both games, he was still able to like do shit.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we talked
Apparently
about.
the Chinese forums were very mad, and they were calling going a piece of trash. And
Wow.
God damn it,
Chinese.
Chinese forums.
At least they don't analyze games either. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we were talking last week about how they've transformed into this brute force team. I do think this week that they left their comfort zone a little bit with experimentation because, while, you know, obviously Uzi's had more focus from the jungle and stuff, I feel like they've been trying to experiment more with protect the Uzi, which is a direction I don't want the team to go. I'd rather have Uzi adjust to the team than the team adjust to Uzi. And I really wasn't a fan of the protect the Vayne comp. The game they ran against IG, the second game, I actually really liked a little bit more, just because they're a little bit more creative with funneling Golden to Uzi, because I think he was Sivir, and they just gave him a solo lane so he could get 6 quickly, and then they used that to convert into tactical rotations. But they still funneled the gold onto him, but it was still like good for the team as a whole because of the way Sivir ulti works. They're not the first team to do this, but I feel like it's a little bit different than how they've been playing recently, where they just try to smash lane in one game. So, I mean, they still have their faults, but I do feel like they were experimenting a bit this week. But I just don't like the direction the team is going if they stick to the way they've been playing.
Yeah, and of course they've been. Yeah, it's just it's interesting to see because now, like, of course, when they go for like when they're on purple side and they get last pick, you pretty much, or at least at this point, you can tell like where they're going to go. They structure their picks in bands basically to tailor UCI because he's like, well, am I gonna pick Vayne into this comp? Oh, I'm gonna wait until the last pick. And then you just realize it doesn't matter what the enemy team picks. He's gonna go for Vayne, and you're like, okay, well, And it'll change, hopefully. I don't know.
The other
I'm
just
incredibly
lost.
concerning thing is just how OMG deals with split push too. Like they just can't. Like it's just bad. I don't know.
I don't know if they were just like goofing off, and so they sent the entire team to deal. It's like, oh, okay, let's all go. And it worked because GAMT would then like immediately go to Baron, and they couldn't kill the Baron, so OMG came and aced them, and then it was just like, oh.
No. This is another good topic. Wave management. I keep talking about
Yeah.
this. It's like this little buzzword on
I
like, my
just
Twitter.
before we leave OMG, can we talk
We're gonna
about?
continue to talk about OMG because
Okay.
OMG has shitty wave management. Okay.
You say wave management, it's like, oh, we're talking about LGD now. Let's go.
LGD.
Yeah,
no,
that's what I was thinking.
I was gonna bring up LGD as the example. The other team that I think has actually really good wave management is Snake. And partly because Ella and Beast are so good at warding, and partly because Flandre is really good at paying attention to waves and has like a split pushing background. Okay, wave management in China historically was like last year was a problem. Like China was bad at warding last year, they were bad at minion control last year. It was very much about team fights. This has changed a lot, actually. Like, we kind of talked about it a little bit where we touched on it briefly. Like, the major way that teams are winning is they're just taking towers, which whoever thought that we would say that on Chinatown? We're like, yeah, the teams that are just, like, taking the towers and making these rotations are just winning. Wave management specifically has always been, like, an issue in China. And not even in China, but every time I watch, like, an NA LCS game, I'm just like, why is this ending in a base race? And what I mean by that is, obviously, the most basic way to look at it is when you look on the map and all of the creep waves are pushed forward. And what you'll notice from a team like LGD, because we'll use them as like the baseline, anytime LGD take a fight or they go to take a fight, they always prep the waves beforehand. And specifically, Wayless and Acorn are really, really good at this. And so what that means is that when LGD is in like a close, intense game and they approach a dragon, and it's like this could go 50-50, either LGD is going to win here or the other team can get it, but because LGD take the time, and you can look at their map, it never fails. Every single wave will be pushed. Even if LGD lose that dragon fight, which sometimes does happen, the other team cannot execute anything off of it. Because obviously they win the dragon fight, supposedly they get an ace, they take the dragon, but then like, okay, we're gonna go push a tower. Oh, fuck, none of the waves are pushed. We have to like go clear out creeps, like we don't have time. And it's something so simple from other teams who don't do that. And it's a kind of a staple in Korea where they call it like dead lanes. Like you can't do anything into this lane. So the idea is that if we always have our waves push, if we always have these dead lanes, then we know that even if like statistically if we approach this fight we lose it, we're not going to lose map control or objective control off of it. And so statistically it's just the better fight, so there's no like onus on us to do like it's that type of theory. OMG.
It also makes them really annoying to win against.
Yeah, like all of their losses are like 45 minutes. Like you are dragging out late game to try to beat ED or LGD, because even if they're like so far behind, they never give you any sort of map room to make plays. It's actually really nice to watch. Stake kind of does the same thing, not to the same extent, because like Acorn and Wayless are so good at this.
Mm-hmm.
OMG.
And Flame is good at this too when he plays.
Yeah. OMG is so piss poor at this for being a top tier team. I think LGD, or not LGD, EDG is also decent at this. Not to the same extent that LGD is, but like out of the top 3 teams, like you have really good wave management, team fighting, tactical rotations, kind of like a nice little synergy or mixture, and then you have OMG. And OMG is just piss poor. Like I don't...
Terrible vision, terrible wave management, terrible coordination, and they're just like beating teams by brute forcing them and
wandering up to them when they're doing Baron and just like happening to ace them. Like I feel...
And if a team like Invictus Gaming, for example, comes out with a really smart lane swap up and then like they set going behind by like 30 CS, then they can win a game off that. Like that's how fragile OMG's strategy is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, not to mention it looks even worse anytime they stray away from the whole brute force style, which means that they can't adjust, which is really scary as a fan of OMG for the past couple of years, where they used to be creative and adaptive and think on the fly and stuff, and now it's like literally polar opposite, and it's really just, I don't know, the team's taken a very strange direction, and they've really lost the identity that made them special previously in China, which is kind of funny. It's just... I don't know. They were like the standout
OMG
team for this sort of thing that we're criticizing them for right now. This was like their standout like reason for being such an exciting team. And now that's like completely gone just with the addition of Uzi, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, really.
Mm.
And we did see like some kind of cute things from them. Like when they played the second game against Invictus Gaming, I don't even know how this worked. Like it's really weird. They met like no resistance when they did this, but they just like freight trained the bottom lane, got the tower, got the dragon, freight trained the mid lane, got the top tower, in like 10 to 15 minutes. They just had all of these objectives. And then like UCI was diving past tier 2 towers, but again they had like a composition that made sense. They had the Morgana Silver lane, they had the double AP assassins, and I feel like this is something they're more used to playing with, right? A supportive style AD carry almost. Like not to say that they can't play with a hyper carry AD carry because they had comps that do that, but then like 2 solo laners are gonna go crazy. But I don't know.
I don't like their support.
Yeah, their support is not a good Thresh player
Do you think it's almost the same
either.
when I was watching their game last night and it was kind of like this stalemate where nothing happened? I think the score was like 11-11 and Low kept standing around corners like trying I want to say playing with vision except there are no wards. He would just kind of like stand around a corner in the fog of war and try to throw out a hook to see if he
Sometimes he would stand on a ward.
Exactly. I just like watching that game. I was like, this is Dota 7 all over again. This is exactly the problem that OMG had in their knockout stage, where they needed something to happen, but they couldn't make it happen. And like it comes back down to this brute force where suddenly, Lovely would make like a flag and drag pick, and he would just like barely touch the edge of someone, and then suddenly Cool would expend 4 flashes because he was playing Ahri. And like flash over a wall and suddenly be on top of someone and they'd find a pick, like somehow out of that situation. But it was like they had to go to such extreme lengths to even get anything, like to get fed, because their vision is so poor that they can't find anyone. And they don't have a support that can facilitate any sort of catch or engage potential with them.
At least Dota 7 warded, okay?
Whoa.
Oh, no, well, I don't think that, yeah, I mean, that is
I don't
something.
think Low's
It's-
that bad.
No, yeah,
let's
it's
not
not fair to
compare-
say that he's worse than Dada, but I like there are statistics that prove that Dada's wording was at least decent. But
I just think that this guy is not. I look at Low and I'm just like, this is not
He's-
good.
I think that was actually an uncharacteristically bad set for him. I think maybe it's like a Thresh thing because he's done well with some other champions.
If your support can't play Thresh in China, you're gonna have a
I
bad
know.
time.
It's a problem.
Like
or
but
anywhere really.
Well,
it
even
might
in
not
China-
even be a Thresh thing. It might be a last night thing. Like he wasn't. I mean, he's had some questionable times where he lands a skill shot. Like I'll see him land a skill shot on the wrong target, like focusing Mata or something really weird in Vici Gaming. But it hasn't been this bad, so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had like a bad night, and that like maybe OMG was just completely off last night. They didn't look as good as even they did in their Invictus Gaming set, so I don't know. It was bad.
Okay.
I think that's the
Brass,
best way to
Braxton,
describe
It
that.
was bad.
Like it was
OMG and
pretty much it.
LGD both shit in the bed.
Okay, but here's the thing. Let's do some theory, because we haven't had OMG and LGD clash yet.
They do next weekend. Woo!
Yay!
Valentine's Day.
Who's gonna win? Because right now it's good, because obviously the top 3 teams are going to be EDG, OMG, and LGD, the 3 GGGs. And right now OMG slumping and LGD slumping, or I shouldn't say slumping. I should say they were upset. And by upset I mean like not emotionally. They could be emotionally upset, but GT and King taking the games off of them. King gets the 2-0. And GT splits 1-1 with OMG, which isn't uncharacteristic for OMG. They have been known to drop games to the worst team in the league. Jian Gun.
The other, I want to say the other thing that's not insignificant is the first best of two for both of these teams this week was against an Invictus Gaming that I think they expected to cakewalk all over, because Invictus Gaming has not looked good. And then suddenly they were having these more controlled compositions, they were team fighting better, and I don't want to say that Invictus Gaming's game against OMG especially was that great, because I feel like they had so much indecision in the mid game, but they still won that game because their composition was better, they had a little bit more patience. Like the second game, obviously, those two teams, everything was out the window. They were playing whatever. Kakao and Rookie realized that, oh, in China it's totally normal if you just run around killing people. Yeah, I think it was surprising to them to face an Invictus Gaming that was stronger than they had been. And I think for LGD that was exacerbated when they faced King, and King had figured some stuff out too. OMG, on the other hand, I think they just kind of like tanked after the IG thing. I don't know what happened.
Like, yeah, that's what it was. I think if they do face each other, which is in like next week,
Valentine's Day.
I can take away more from OMG's play than I can from LGD's. I would probably go with LGD probably winning out, because I do think the team has they all have great lanes though. This is so difficult. I think OMG is just playing worse as a team.
Better wave management. Like, this is how I think that this game will die on, is that you can't have a sloppy rotation against LGD. Like, even if you do, it just takes that much longer to beat them down. Like, when teams have ridiculous gold leads against LGD, when they do happen to lose, it's so slow. We have to take every single inhibitor. We have to make a pick before we can move on to the Nexus towers. And I think a big part of it is Acorn. And you know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of the fucking flame between, like, Acorn or Flame. Why aren't they playing Flame? Where is Flame? Like, I understand that Flame's like a popular player and he hasn't done bad, but Acorn has done really well for the most part. Like, he, even when LGD loses, he's always the bright spot in the team. Like, he's always on top of shit. Like, the reason why they have such good wave control is pretty much entirely on Acorn. Occasionally, Wayless will do it, but, like, Acorn is so good at it.
Yeah, for sure, and that's like that's all aside from the fact that they were more familiar with playing with him simply because he arrived earlier. But the thing with LGD is like, yeah, I think they're more strategically diverse, and they don't need to rely on brute force. I think they can outsmart OMG in that set, and just because they had a slump week this week, I don't really want to hold that against them, because I feel like they went into the set a little bit unprepared, which might be a poor excuse, but when you think about the fact that there's so many games, and this week they had IG and King, and considering the performance of those two teams prior to this week, I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say that they just weren't really in top form, and they kind of were trying to take it light this week, and it showed. But I don't know. I can't see where OMG would beat LGD, because it's like, yeah, they can brute force, but like it's not like OMG's laners are significantly better than LGD's or anything like that. So
yeah, and people compare...
OMG's laners struggled to stay ahead of Gamtee's laners, and I say nice things about Gamtee's laners because I think that all those players are talented, but I don't think that they're like, we can keep up with cool talented.
Yeah.
And people compare like the Gamtee game to the King game, and I think actually King has started to step it up. I do think like you can't really take anything out of the King versus LGD set in the sense that you can criticize LGD for being or playing poorly or worse than they've usually played. I think King has actually picked it up a bit in that sense.
I think King played really well. Like, if I were to give a word to that game, I would say patient. Like that Baron play where King was playing with the wave, pushing onto LGD's base, and so Acorn was back in the base clearing it, but of course Chwin is sitting on the back of the Baron pit trying to get the steal, because that's pretty much the only play that LGD have available to them because they don't have their Gnar. And just, I think it was like 30 seconds, King stood in the back of the pit and then used the Rumble ults at the very last second when they started to actually burn the Baron to shove Chwin off to make sure he couldn't get into distance. It was like, that was really well played by King. That was a very mature organized, methodical. They went from the Baron to the inhib to the other inhib. There was never a moment where they tried to force it. And yeah, you can criticize them for as far ahead as they were not being able, obviously they got aced in the base a couple of times because they decided to go too ham on the very back half of it. But for 95% of that game, King was super controlled about where they were going, what they wanted to do, and frankly, they were outmatched on a player-to-player basis. This is LGD, this is Imp and PYL and Wayless, and King has good players, but it's not the same. I love Wushin and Lei, but they're not Imp and PYL.
That's true. It just the star power on LGD is pretty massive on that front. But this is why, because when you say that, I'm like, oh god. Well, I've noticed that my frame of reference or who I put up on a pedestal has changed, because I do watch I've watched the LSPL games, and I just loved King. I loved their playstyle. I was there was so much hype for me on that, for when LPL started, so for them to show what they had to offer, and then they just kind of and of course I can criticize them on their champion picks for the longest time, because this is actually the first time that they played that Rumble. This is,
and they
first...
found it. They first picked. They're I'm never letting this go again.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah,
this is the first time that they played
Rumble
those.
Was
picks.
really good.
And it was.
Though they actually
super
had
good.
played Rumble once before.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
This time it was good. Yay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that even though they haven't played it so much, this is one of the they picked it up and he's actually played it, and it's really really good. But when they first showed up in the LPL, it wasn't just their champion picks. It wasn't just their picking bans that were atrocious. Their team play has leveled down significantly. It wasn't something that we've seen from their preseason, and finally now that they're showing it up again. So let's see if they can keep that consistency.
Lonely had one of the best sets that I think I've seen of him in the LPL.
Mm-hmm.
I've been high on Lonely, probably higher than I should have been, but his Vi in that series was really good.
And the thing about Lonely for me is it always goes back to he'll have those good early games where he's playing off the vision correctly, and he'll have really smart ganks, but then and he almost threw that game, right, doing the classic Lonely stuff where he just goes way too deep with that ultimate, and he's 5 lanes down, and then the team just because King, I feel King is just, oh no, we have to help each other. They all will file in single file after him.
Yeah, actually.
So yeah, that's always been my thing with King, and that's how they throw their late games. So yeah.
And
other than that,
the King team play is comes to a fault, because they're just
it's the power of friendship. They can't leave someone behind.
It's I'll save you. They just all die one by one. You're ace. It's okay. It's alright. This is how King loses their games. Alright.
Now we get to talk about Kalista.
Okay.
Okay, Kalista has been played by mostly Imp, but now Crystal, Vasily, Uzi, Imp, and I think that's the 4 AD carries that have played Kalista so far. But mostly it's been played by Imp. And Imp has shown a gauntlet of builds. I know, Kelsey, you don't like to pay too much attention to the builds, but he's shown everything from Zephyr on his Kalista to a straight attack speed with the Zephyr to he did the Hurricane build the last time to an Infinity Edge Static Shiv Last Whisper type of build.
he did BT last night.
He did BT Hurricane, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Kalista is a fault to LGD. They have no idea how to play this champion. Is this fair to say? Is everyone okay with this statement?
I can say that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even just that, though. It's also that they played it with a comp that they couldn't really utilize your ultimate with. So I don't know. It seems weird to use it with a team that doesn't actually utilize the throw-in. I don't know. I don't like Kalista, man.
It's also really weird because PYL is a roaming support, and obviously being the shot caller, and if you have a Kalista, obviously you want to keep your support typically in the lane, although we've seen some lane swaps where they'll just put Kalista up alone for whatever reason and just have her sit up there and farm and get her items because she itemizes really quickly if she goes Hurricane because it's cost effective. But like PYL specifically, to retain him to one lane, to be like, no, you can't leave because obviously we want to use the Callisto. And like Imp and PYL are so good at it in lane. Like it's actually really devastating to watch. They got like 2 double kills back to back where PYL got the first one and then Imp got the second one. But just not having him roam, not allowing him to get involved with the mid lane is pretty devastating.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Is with LGD, it's just too restrictive to the team to run a champion like Kalista because it's basically reverting the things that PYL excels at and forcing him to stay in the 2v2, which I guess can work if you're for sure going to smash that bottom lane, because they're by no means bad laners, but the magic of that team is when PYL goes and assists everywhere. So, I don't know. There's very rarely a situation where I think Kalista is good on teams that are very roam-heavy, and LGD is like the pinnacle of that, so, like, there's just better options. I don't get it, personally.
You know
I don't get the hype, man.
Really good at Kalista? Uzi is really good at Kalista. I think that champion was like made for him. It's like a mechanical based.
But he lost that game.
It doesn't matter. He played Kalista well. Think about it. My support means nothing to me. They're just a tool for me to use.
Yeah.
That was bad too, though. I don't know.
It's really funny because like that's why I just like look at Crystal and be like, "Your baby UZI," because it worked so well for him, even though I want to start this off by saying, why are you picking Kalista into Vi? Like, you're in picks and bans. You see, this champion is one of the only champions that can fuck me. I'm gonna pick it into that.
Well, to be fair, what 80 carry can you pick safely into Vi? You're pretty much like severe.
Well, I mean, like, okay, but like, you can pick a lot of champions in the sense that they have like self peel.
Whoa.
Kalista's self peel is just like her. Kalista, okay, there's a difference between her dashes and her auto attack, which is based on kiting, and you cannot kite like a point and click ulti. It's going to destroy you. Except it didn't, because Vici played horribly. There was that one point. Okay, the Kalista works well for Crystal because he can. Like, he's basically using Elo for self-peel. Like, it worked really well for him. He can output the most amount of damage. And on that team, he had Nunu as well, which, like, Nunu and Kalista work so well because, like, how are you going to get to that backline? This is what I really love about Snake compositions right now, is that, like, of course, if you don't ban away Xerath, and if you don't ban away Nunu, and I guess now, like, you don't even have to ban away Kalista, but, like, the team fights are too damn good. But with that being said, back to the Kalista pick. Like, the way that they should have played it, there was one point in the top lane where Vi tried to kill Kalista.
That 2v1?
That 2v1. No, let's think, like, it was Vi.
Ella showed up on the back half of it.
She was there, wasn't she? Like, throughout the entirety of it? Like, she was like, it was like Kalista, Ella, Crystal Ella just pushing the lane with Thresh there, and then Vi comes in for like just to basically try and pick off Kalista and just gets fucked. Like, there's no team play on that team. What the hell happened? I don't know. I'm just going off on a tangent now.
Anyway, the other thing about LGD's Kalista,
Yeah.
bring it back. Bring it back.
Kelsey's like, never mind.
Is they don't know how to split push with it. I feel like that's been an effective.
They would rather split push with LeBlanc
Kalista
than to
thing.
send Kalista to the opposite lane.
I don't know
That's
if
the
Imp
best
is
part of
just
that
like
game.
Imp is just like afraid of the enemy solo laners, or I don't know.
He used to split push on Tristana.
Yeah.
Like, that used to be his thing. This is why I'm like, so, like, why isn't Imp split pushing? Why doesn't he just walk to the sideline? Like, why the hell is LeBlanc out there just like pushing creeps with W?
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer to that.
I think like all of LGD's problems would have been solved if they would just like swapped LeBlanc and Kalista for their split push, and like that would have been it. Okay.
Yep.
Pretty
Excellent.
much. I like
Good talk,
I agree.
guys.
Let's see. I mean, I don't know. LGD just shit the bed this week, so.
And sort of, and, I don't know. Like OMG, I don't want to say that they
Are
need.
we back on OMG?
Well, we're talking about teams that screwed up, and I was thinking about Wayless, and Wayless has to play like these assassin playmakers.
I'm glad that we have like the train of thought here. When I was thinking about LGD, and I was thinking about Wayless, and Wayless somehow is on OMG because Cool's like what?
No, because Cool also has, and I don't want them.
Cool
to be
also
this team.
likes purple.
I don't want them to be this team that has to have like Cool on these playmaking assassins. But you think about these games that they've played, like, why is he on Morgana? Why is he? Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I asked about Flandre, but I didn't get an answer.
Why is Flandre on
He's
Morgana?
watching Champions, okay?
Oh man.
Anyway.
Actually, I just want. Okay, I shouldn't get off track. Never mind. Okay,
Yeah,
actually,
we're already
talking
off
about-
track.
We don't have
Yeah,
a
but
track.
okay,
The
I-
track
okay,
is gone.
I like that Flandre. Okay, I like that Flandre's been playing more meta. I also like that he used to play really, really obscure champions, but I just don't ever see him do well in Mage's top, like ever. Like all of his Kassadin games and that Vlad game, I don't know. I'm not really entirely convinced. Especially his Kassadin games. All of his Kassadin games have sucked. I can't. Is there a game that they've done well in where he's been Kassadin? Am I just like?
Yeah.
Well, they've won casting games.
Well,
I can't think of a time that he's done well in Kassadin, and
I mean,
they've picked it like 4 times, 3 or
they-
4 times.
That Vici Gaming game, they won
Yeah, but that was like
casting.
early. Wasn't that like
His
early
casting
VHD, which
record
is
is
terrible?
4-1.
what?
Well, to be
Really?
fair with the Vici Gaming, fair with the Vici one, he was behind and he had to use he built a tier just to get the stacks because he knew he wasn't going to get the gold.
yeah,
but that was
it's
just something else
Kassadin.
entirely.
Like
Yeah.
that's
The
your
only-
strategy going in. You're like, okay, I just like if I just don't get fucked harder, I will see you late game.
Yeah, but in those, like in that sense, it's like usually people would go for a Rod of Ages build, but like he just wasn't getting gold, so he was like, all right, new plan. we're just gonna rely on stacks here with these tiers.
The only game where he played Kassadin and lost was that game against King.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't really necessarily think he's bad on mages. Can't really think of a game in which he's actually.
That bad.
Yeah, I feel like because most of the time he's
Well,
like
just
generally
leave-
he's always a really he doesn't
Well,
lose
think
lane.
about his
Most
kit
sense.
and like what his strengths are. Like his strength is getting involved with the team and being like a team fighter and getting to that back line and rotating. He's actually really good at rotations and like using his teleport correctly, like when he plays Rumble and when he plays Kassadin. And Morgana doesn't really offer any of that. Like, yeah, she could teleport down there and try to like soul shackle, but that bitch moves at like 2 miles an hour with one of the slowest moving skill shots in the game. Not that that stops Afro Moo, but
Yeah. And I think this is the first time that I've actually seen a team comp surrounding what it seemed like Baka to be the highest damage, scaling damage kind of for that team, which was really weird. I mean, there was the Kog'Maw, but like but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Baka in that sense.
there was a
He
Kog'Maw
actually-
in that game.
We're talking about the game in which
No, I
it was
know. The one where
yeah.
Crystal like fed
Oh yeah.
repeatedly.
Yeah. So one thing that I actually saw, maybe it was just because of the late game in which I'm not sure if he actually sold his boots, but he built what was it again? Zephyr on he built Zephyr on Azir, which is interesting. I'm not so sure about that one. Not so sure about that one, Baka.
Oh yeah, dude, I know. I was like, okay, the Nastra's Tooth, I can understand. That's good, but the Zephyr was a little out there. I don't know about that. I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, it has CDR, and I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, if you just like look at it on paper and apply it to his kit, but I don't know. CC reduction.
Are we gonna bitch about champion picks and builds? Because I have a bone to pick with Pawn and his Veigar.
Can we just leave the Veigar alone right now?
It was
Eh.
bad, and he should feel bad.
He played it again last night. You can watch it and get more ammo.
Just jeez, no. Oh god.
I just like the interview. No, I'm gonna hit him on this. The interview was like, "What about the Veigar pick?" Well, we think he's gonna be really strong in the upcoming patches. You know, the patch where DFG is
No,
disabled.
he said this. No, he said he's really strong on this patch, which
Oh.
there's still DFG.
Okay, yeah, picking that into Azir because Azir builds, straight AP, so Veigar's passive is really useful against Azir, and obviously Veigar outranges Azir. Like all those.
They
champions.
just wanted to play Azir.
They
Okay.
wanted to play Veigar.
I mean,
Yeah,
excuse me, Veigar. They just wanted to play Veigar. They wanted to play Veigar in a cute composition with Nunu and
Caitlyn
Jonna
and Jonna.
and
That was
and
it.
Rumble and like all that zoning, and they're like, oh, look at how cute we could do with the AoE and the stun and and so they played it, but they couldn't say that and say we wanted to have fun against Gamgee, who suck.
They
Gotta
So they
give the
said we
PC
think it's
answer.
really good right now.
Mhm.
Didn't
Yeah,
build DFG, he built a death cap. That's it, I'm done. Pawn. Alright, that was it.
there you go.
Which, by the way, they played it again against WE, and you know what? They're the only team that can do that stuff right now without getting screwed over, because apparently OMG can't.
God.
I'm
I
gonna-
don't know. I
That's
think
cap.
OMG is gonna turn out to be. Here's a random, but like not random actually. I think OMG is gonna turn out to be a worse team in the standings because they're not growing. Maybe they will grow later on. Maybe like the playoff will be a point in which they can turn it on.
I feel like we
But-
always do this though. We
That's
always
never
put
been
OMG
OMG.
down, and then like when at the point where we're like OMG sucks, we hate this team, they're not gonna do well. That's always when they show up and they like 3-0 Nod and White Shield.
And,
I know,
and like,
dude. They like
watch,
reverse CLG.
This
Watch-
always happens.
watch next week. They're gonna come out because they have to face King and LGD, and they're just gonna smash people.
All I'm saying, this is gonna be probably really stupid for me and my credibility. but I think because OMG,
Quote them.
maybe at some point they'll find some actual strategy in their play. Maybe, just maybe. But I'm
did
gonna
this-
give it up to. Yeah, I'm gonna
I mean,
give it up
it's
to the
like-
teams that are growing, and the teams that are like one team that I honestly do think that at their high point they can take down OMG is King, because
I love
if King can
God.
make it to the
King
playoffs,
circle jerk.
if they can
I-
make it to the playoffs,
I
they
feel
can
like all
beat
these.
OMG.
I feel like all these Snake fans are watching us right now. Like, what?
Why would you be a fan? Okay, no, I actually really like Snake. I think they're fun to watch, but this is my one thing about Snake. You can tell when you're watching a Snake game that they are trying as hard as their little hearts can. Like,
Well,
they-
so are King, really.
Okay, I understand that. They are trying as hard as their little hearts can, and like, come when they face like the big dogs in the playoffs, when like OMG decides to take their head out of their ass, and LGD decides that they want to figure out if they're playing Acorn or Flame or what's going on. Don't put Kalista in the composition. Like, it's just gonna get. It's gonna get bad. It's gonna get really rough. Same thing for King. Not just gonna like put that for Snake, but like you can't. I feel like people with Snake, they want to put him on like a really high pedestal and say like they can compete with those top tier teams, and they can't. Like it's coming. The smackdown is very, very real. Which is
Yeah.
why I'm just like, we shouldn't doubt OMG, because we always do, and OMG always shows up, like at the last possible second.
And we gave up on King until this week, right?
I know. Okay, here's my speech
Okay.
about King. I fought so hard for King in the global power rankings. Like, I went tooth and nail. There was cat fighting. There was definitely
Yeah.
a punch thrown. Like, I was right there. I was like, no, King's a good team. I believe in them. They can do this. And they're like, you can't prove it. They just lost all these games. They're in the bottom of the. You have to drop them low. And I was like, fine, I'll drop them lower, and now they're like in 9th place or something. No, I think they're like the 14th in the power rankings. And then they go and they 2-0 LGD, and I was like, fuck you, King. I hate you.
And my score power rankings with Fionn and Nilu and Matt Demers, I actually put like number 15 turned out to be Elements, but when Matt asked us to put our blurbs in, I said, don't listen to the haters. King is actually number 15. So, there's my story.
There we go. Like,
That's cool.
and I wanted to say that it's so weird because people will look at me and be like, this guy's a Snake hater. But
Yeah, you snake hater.
I'm a Snake hater. But like, I don't want to give them too much credit because obviously they don't deserve it. But I don't want to like shit
Tell
on
that to
them too
the,
hard.
tell that to the
That
standings.
is so cool. Obviously, they don't. No, they have.
Obviously.
I think, okay, we need to dial it
but
back a
I
little.
wanted to finish it. I want to finish my statement in the sense that like, but I don't want to like go too far in the sense of saying they're
Oh,
a
you
bad
went too
team.
far.
Yeah, you
Because
go.
they're not a bad team and they're not the best team. To put some context onto who they are as a team, they're improving. They have always been improving. They've always been the team that, like, at first they were just straight up losing to horrible LPL teams. There was a point in which they were struggling against Showtime. Showtime? You were struggling against Showtime? Alright, they're not even an LSPL team. But that's just, I digress. That was something else. But they're a team that's been ranking up, to the point in which I can confidently say, like, I remember going into the first week of LPL, that they're not a last place team. They're not a last place team. They're not even close to it. They're not even close to it. In fact, the team that I thought was growing in energy pacemakers, they're a last place team. Fuck energy pacemakers. Like, I love them, but you know what? They're the last place team.
Salt picture.
I just want to say that I put EP last on my rankings when we decided to do it for the show, and you motherfuckers,
I didn't
pushed
put
it
it when I
last.
talked Raz. Besides, you don't have any soapbox for this. You put them 10th. That's not like this huge.
It wasn't last.
But
thing is, like,
energy pacemakers at the time didn't deserve last place. That was the thing. They were
they
a team that was
deserved it.
improving. They were like putting LGD on the ropes with Captain 57. They were showing that, like, hey man, we have a strong early game. We're working on the mid game. We're improving. And Captain 57's gone for fucking drizzle. Are you kidding me? And then Raphael's in the mid lane, but I never cared for a mid laner to begin with, so I was like, whatever. I'm a little less like sad about that.
Tell me how you really feel, Raz.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna say this, and this is gonna sound really PC and friendly or whatever, but I actually really believe this, that by the end of this spring, we're gonna have 8 teams that are really, really competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super happy about that.
I'm
like,
tired of your unicorns and rainbows over there.
No,
the 8 teams don't
So-
matter. Top 3 or go home.
No, but that's what I mean. I think you're gonna have 8 teams that are competitive for top 3. I think it's gonna be really cool.
No.
That's what I like. It's gonna be EU has been transported, or at least the competition.
Like, 'cause you can kind of see Vici Gaming is going here, LGD is like kind of having trouble, but Invictus Gaming is going somewhere. You have like King suddenly showing up.
That's really liberal.
Snake
But
playing.
it's so true, and that's what I love. I've always like, oh, all these teams are ranking up.
I'll
and
give
at
you
their
4.
in their peak.
I'll give you 4 teams, maybe 5. I don't think there's gonna be 8. I don't think IG and Vici will be able to consistently keep it up.
And my thing with Snake
We
is
will
that
see, my friend.
until I see Baka play something that's not Xerath and Azir, I don't want to like
Exactly.
make that team in my head. Like, seriously, the guy has literally been allowed to play those 2 champs the entire season. It's
But I think
obnoxious.
they'll at least be competitive. That's my thing.
Yeah,
It's like,
sure.
And who's
so-
stopping him from playing it in a like? If you ban it away from him, like they've tried. You ban
Snake's in a weird position where like they have like 2 champs apiece for like 3 people on
This
the
was-
team, and
this
so you
was
have to
like-
like choose which one to ban out. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
This was like Starhorn last year, remember? Because like Corn played Fizz and Oriana.
Yeah, but we got Oriana
it's-
every single game.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
and that's
because
what's happening with
everyone.
Baka though. He's getting Xerath all the time.
But that's because there were like too many people that you could ban out, so they picked.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like Insect could play like at the time. I realized that he branched out and played more champions at Worlds. Thank you. At the time, he could only really play like Lee Sin or Rengar or Kha'Zix, and then like at the time,
You're being generous with Rengar.
Cola could only. But this is how OMG beat them, like in the playoffs consistently, is they would ban 2 of those and pick the other one.
So this is Kelsey's
So-
strategy now. We're gonna get a team of 5 players, and they only play 2 champions each. And then you're just gonna be like, pick, pick which one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Who do we ban out? And that's why I thought it was really interesting that Vici Gaming chose to ban out Beast, because I wasn't even thinking about that, but then they did, and I was like, wow, okay, they have like 3 players who are like that.
Well, they decided to ban out Beast, and then everyone else decided to play like Morgana top. So, like, I understand what you're saying, but that wasn't just Beast's fault there.
Yeah. And so Snake is at his
top is,
position.
like,
Well, we lost a
but I
ton of
don't
our
think-
boys. Let's just pick one.
I know, they're like, it's over. You're playing Kog'Maw, you're playing Morgana top.
Morgana top isn't terrible, but I don't think it was
It's
good
not
against that.
Flandre's champion.
It wasn't good against that team because they had so much AoE. Like, what are you gonna do against Rumble and Annie when you like? Okay,
Black
oh good.
Shield?
We can block the Vi ultimate. Now we're just gonna get AoE to death. Yay!
I feel like
Woo!
if Flandre played that game a little more peel heavy instead of like going in with Olaf, it would have been a little more smooth. But it's like, well, have fun down there, Coggy. We're going in.
I just feel like that was one of the very rare games that we're gonna see from Snake that surrounds. Like we're gonna see a lot of games surrounding Crystal, but not Baka. Baka is supposed to be the one that's.
Wait, they surrounded Crystal in theory. Like, obviously in execution they didn't, but like the idea was is to put like the Janna shield and the black shield on the Kog'Maw and like Azir
Yeah.
would zone for him, but that wasn't what happened.
Okay, yeah, alright, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
But I
You're
could
on your-
see it. I know, right? I could see going into like this is the plan, and like halfway through, Crystal was like, "Yo, anytime you guys are ready."
Anytime. Yeah.
Are we good? Is this
Yeah,
good?
we're good on that one.
Okay. We talked about King, we talked about LGD, we talked about OMG, we talked about IG and Vici. I think that's it. Unless we want to talk about World Elite and Energy Pacemaker some more.
Oh,
Nope.
please.
I don't want to do that.
So
That was
good.
for all who wonder, like that's the truth. We were weeping that game.
It's like what I like to call it the eye test. Like you go, you go to every single region. Like people are always like they're always debating about like the top teams. Like, oh my god, is EDG or GE Tigers or like I don't even know who's number one in NA right now. Let's go SK for EU. Who's the best team? If they were to all you put them in a room, I was like, no, you take the bottom team, the absolute worst team, and you put like IEM. Oh my god, this is perfect. This is like. This is going to be the tournament of the ages. You take all the worst teams from the region, and then that's how you determine which region is stronger.
Like next IAM World Championships will be the World
When
Championships
did that
of losers.
tournament get so
Taiwan.
shitty? Like,
I mean, the world, like the actual world championship is usually at least pretty good, but all like the little subsidiary ones and like regional based ones are usually never that good. But I don't know. I mean, the thing is, it's like you can say it's shitty, but it's like it's only because they like select weak Asian teams, which really sucks. Like every time I watch World Elite play, I'm like, please God, no, don't be the only Chinese representative at IAM, which is what it's sounding like sometimes. And it's just like, please just don't make this happen. Like it's gonna be so bad. I'm gonna have an aneurysm.
I think
Everybody's
it's
gonna
also-
judge China off World Elite,
But-
and I'm just gonna cry.
there's a problem with the scheduling here. If, like, it takes so long... Like, this is a completely different team. A lot of these, like, World Elite is not the team that was invited, but yet because the schedule was so far out and where it fell, like, that's a problem with planning this tournament. Like, you can't tell me, like, that's not a problem unique to IEM.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
that's...
I heard that there are gonna be more invites actually. So.
I hope so.
I hope. And at
IG's
least
gonna come
Gambit,
too.
at least Gambit
We'll
might.
have Masters 3, World Elite, and Invictus Gaming.
If anything, I would guess that it might be like Snake and EDG because they had these really heavy weeks, right? And so did WE. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like
looking at W and IG off the fact that they're like, oh, those were Chinese teams back in like season 2,
yeah,
right?
I know that's what you're saying,
Oh.
but I'm saying like the fact that those are the 3 teams so far that have had like 3 set weeks really early. I don't know. We'll see.
I'd love to see EDG at an early international tournament just because they shit the bed at Worlds. Like, I'd love to see it because they're in such good shape right now. Please.
I
Then
just
they'd
wanna
only
make the
win because
disclaimer, though.
Koreans,
No,
Mike.
hold on. Disclaimer.
I know.
World Elite is easily one of the worst teams in China right now. When they show at IEM, prepare to watch a car accident. It is in by no means a testament to the top level of China. Godspeed. That's
Yeah.
it. That's your disclaimer.
Oh,
There you
my
go.
God.
Watch World Elite just come out and just be like an amazing team. Just like
I think that's
Ninja's
how we
just
should end that one.
Ninja's just like 9-1 in like 20 minutes.
Oh
It's
my
like,
God.
What is going on?
I think that's how we should
Honolulu.
end this one. Be like on that disclaimer. Be like, World Elite, not a good team. So prepare yourselves.
poor
Yeah.
Spirit. Like people feel bad for Mad Life. I feel bad for Spirit.
Dude, Spirit is in the worst prison. Like, fuck Space Prison. Space is doing fine this season, dude. Like, Spirit is in the prison of prisons right now.
It's like on an island, like Alcatraz, and Ninja's his cell guard. He's got a Luca on one side, like he's sharing a bunk with a Luca, and then like Ninja's patrolling outside. And then in the courtyard, he can distantly see STYZ, and they're trying to throw notes to each other, but they're just not reaching.
Oh,
God. Yeah.
Man, what happened to World Elite? I think they have like probably the worst solo laners now, or close to. Anyway, I think it's enough mourning about World Elite.
Yeah.
I think that's it. That was all of our topics, unless you guys have anything else. I'm
I think
really
so.
hungry and I'm really tired. Kind of disoriented.
Okay, so we'll just close on my games to watch, which are strictly based on entertainment, not on any strategical value whatsoever, which would be Snake vs. Fiji. That is a good set.
Please
You
watch
should
this
watch it
game.
if you want to have fun.
I prefer Starhorn versus Vici Gaming. It was like really funny. I don't know. Good games.
Alright.
I would say LGD versus King though is my set for this week.
Jeez.
My set, I'd go for King versus LGD. That was beautiful.
I'm sticking with
book winning
Drexen
place.
and I'm going Snake.
Okay,
Okay.
we've got Snake versus Vici
is the set.
Gaming and LGD versus King. Go forth and enjoy. Yay.
Otherwise, we're not gonna do shoutouts. Just wave.
I think people know where we come from by now.
Except
Bye.
for my requisite shout out to the score because I don't think we fixed the overlay.
Bye.
No,
Bye.
it doesn't say
Bye.
anything overlay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.